The small research ship Gentle Current floated helplessly in the dark void of space. Inside the vessel, Commander TSS gripped his command chair as another explosion shook the entire ship. Red warning lights flashed across every surface, and the constant wailing of alarms filled the air. Status report. TSS shouted over the noise, his blue skin glistening with sweat despite the dropping temperature. Engineer Kef looked up from his damaged console, his hands covered in sparks from exposed wiring. The engine core is completely dead, sir. That last blast took out the main power coupling. We're running on emergency batteries now. SS felt his stomach drop. Without the main engines they were stranded. How long do we have? Life support will last maybe 6 hours on battery power alone, Kef replied, his voice shaking. The heating system is already failing. We'll freeze long before we run out of air. Through the main viewport, TSS could see 3 dark shapes moving closer. The scavenger ships looked like metal vultures, their hulls covered in patches and crude weapons. These pirates made their living by attacking weak vessels and stealing whatever they could find. They're almost in weapons range, reported Navigation Officer Lyra from her station. Sir, we have no shields and no weapons. When they board us. She didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what happened when scavengers took prisoners. The Zilani were a peaceful people. Their research vessel carried no weapons, no soldiers, just scientists studying distant stars. OSS made his decision. Kef, send out a distress beacon on all frequencies. Every channel we have. Sir, we're too far from Zilani space. No one will reach us in time. Just do it, Dizis ordered. Maybe someone will hear us. Kef's hands flew over the communication controls, his panic making him clumsy. Warning symbols appeared on his screen, but he ignored them in his rush. He needed to get the message out before the scavengers attacked. Unknown to Kef, his desperate actions had activated several restricted communication channels. These were frequencies marked with severe warnings in the galactic database. Channels reserved for the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Channels that peaceful civilizations were told never to use. The distress signal traveled through space at the speed of light, spreading in all directions from the doomed research vessel. Most of it would never reach anyone, lost in the empty darkness between stars. But one part of the signal found something unexpected. Far across the galaxy, near a small yellow star, a massive ship received the transmission. The vessel was unlike anything the Zilani had ever built. It stretched over 3 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull black as space itself. Weapon systems lined its surface like the spines of some great beast. On the bridge of this ship, Captain James Mitchell stood studying the holographic displays that surrounded him. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady eyes that had seen too many battles. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. "Captain," called Communications Officer Emma Walsh from her position. "We're receiving a distress signal. It's on one of the restricted frequencies." Mitchell turned toward her. "Restricted how?" "One of the Deathworld channels, sir. The signal is coming from about 40 light-years away." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Deathworld channels. They were emergency frequencies set aside for the galaxy's most dangerous species. Most civilized races avoided them completely. "Can you translate the message?" Mitchell asked. Emma's fingers worked across her console. "The universal translator is processing it now, sir. The basic meaning is clear though. Someone needs help." The main screen flickered, and alien text appeared alongside its translation. The message was simple but desperate. Emergency. Research vessel Gentle Current requesting immediate assistance. Engine failure. Life support failing. Hostile ships approaching. Please help. Mitchell studied the message for a long moment. His ship, the Retribution's Edge, was on patrol duty in this sector. They were supposed to watch for threats to Earth's colonies, not rescue random aliens. But standing orders were clear about distress calls. "How long to reach their position?" he asked. Lieutenant Commander Robert Hayes checked his tactical display. "At maximum burn about 8 hours, sir." "That's cutting it close if their life support is really failing." "Sir," Emma interrupted, "there's something else. The signal indicates they're being pursued by what they call scavenger vessels. 3 of them." Mitchell nodded slowly. He had dealt with pirates before. They were usually cowards who attacked only the weak and defenseless. "Plot an intercept course. Maximum burn." The massive ship began to turn, its engines igniting with barely contained nuclear fire. The Retribution's Edge had been built for war, designed to face the worst threats the galaxy could offer. But today it would serve a different purpose. Back on the Gentle Current, the situation was getting worse. The scavenger ships had moved into attack position, their crude weapons charging with visible energy. "They're demanding we surrender," Lyra reported, her voice barely steady. SOS looked around his bridge at his crew. These were scientists, not warriors. They had joined this mission to study distant galaxies, to expand the knowledge of their people. None of them deserved to die in the cold darkness of space. "Any response to our distress signal?" he asked. Kef shook his head. "Nothing, sir. We're too far from home." The lead scavenger ship fired a warning shot that passed just in front of their bow. The message was clear: surrender now or be destroyed. SOS closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of his family back home. Then he opened them and straightened his shoulders. "Continue broadcasting the distress signal. Someone might still hear us." He didn't know that his signal had already been heard, and that help was coming. Help from the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Officer Kef stared at his sensor display, his eyes wide with disbelief. The readings made no sense. Something massive was approaching their position, but the numbers on his screen seemed impossible. "Commander," he called out, his voice cracking with fear. "There's a vessel approaching. It's enormous." Commander TSS moved quickly to the tactical station. When he saw the display, he felt his blood turn to ice. The approaching ship was beyond anything in their experience. It measured over 3 kilometers long and nearly 1 kilometer wide. Their entire research vessel could fit inside its cargo bay. "By the void," whispered Navigation Officer Lyra. "What is that thing?" The ship's energy signature was unlike anything in their databases. The weapon readings alone made their sensors overload. Each gun turret showed power levels that could destroy entire cities. The ship's armor was thicker than most space stations. HFY ran a quick search through their computer files. Most results came back empty, but one match appeared. A restricted file marked with dire warnings. The header read, "Species Classification, Extreme Threat, Avoid All Contact." The file contained only fragments of information. Stories told by survivors. Reports of worlds burned from orbit. Tales of a species so violent that the galaxy's major powers had agreed to quarantine them in their home system. "It's them," Lyra breathed, reading over his shoulder. "The humans. The Deathworlders." The name sent chills through the entire bridge crew. Every civilized species knew the stories. Humans were the monsters that parents used to frighten children. They came from a world so dangerous that merely surviving there turned them into killing machines. "How far away are they?" Dazis asked, though his voice barely worked. Kef checked his instruments with trembling hands. 20 minutes at their current speed. "Sir, their approach vector puts them directly between us and the scavenger ships." Through the main viewer, they could see the 3 pirate vessels that had been slowly closing in on them. But now those ships had changed course. They were accelerating away at maximum speed, abandoning their easy prey without explanation. "The scavengers are running," reported Lyra, confusion clear in her voice. Isis felt his heart sink. If hardened pirates were fleeing in terror, what did that say about what was coming? The scavengers dealt with violence every day. They wouldn't run unless they faced something truly terrifying. Aboard the massive human dreadnought, the mood was completely different. Captain James Mitchell walked calmly around his bridge, checking status displays with practiced ease. His crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency, preparing for what they saw as a routine rescue operation. "Status on the distressed vessel?" Mitchell asked. Lieutenant Commander Hayes consulted his tactical screen. "Dead in space, sir. No power signature from their main engines. Life support appears to be running on emergency batteries." "Any word from those 3 ships that were approaching them?" "They've broken off and are leaving the area at high speed," reported Lieutenant Sarah Cooper from her sensor station. "Looks like they decided not to stick around." Mitchell nodded approvingly. Pirates rarely wanted to face military vessels. The smart ones ran when they saw a ship that could fight back. "Try to establish communication with the research vessel," he ordered. "Let them know we're here to help." Communications Officer Emma Walsh activated the main transmitter. "Unknown research vessel. This is Captain James Mitchell of the Earth vessel Retribution's Edge. We received your distress signal. What is your current status?" The message traveled across the void between the 2 ships. On the Zalani vessel, warning alarms suddenly activated as an incoming transmission was detected. "Incoming message," Kef reported, his voice barely a whisper. The bridge crew fell completely silent. They all knew this moment would determine their fate. Would the humans demand their surrender? Would they simply destroy the ship without warning? The story said that humans showed no mercy to anyone they encountered. HFY activated the main speakers with a shaking hand. The alien voice that filled their bridge was deep and masculine, but there was something unexpected in its tone. Instead of threats or demands, the voice carried what sounded almost like concern. Unknown research vessel. This is Captain James Mitchell of the Earth vessel Retribution's Edge. We received your distress signal. What is your current status? Do you require medical assistance or emergency supplies? The entire Zilani crew stared at each other in shocked silence. Medical assistance? Emergency supplies? These were offers of help, not demands for surrender. Lyra was the first to find her voice. They're asking if we need medical help? Kef looked at his instruments in confusion. Sir, they're not targeting us. Their weapons are powered down. They're just waiting. Commander HFY felt his understanding of the universe shift. Everything they had been taught about humans painted them as mindless destroyers. Savage beasts who killed for pleasure. But the voice they had just heard sounded like that of a professional military officer genuinely concerned for their welfare. Still, he hesitated. What if this was some kind of trap? What if the humans were playing with them before the final strike? On the human ship, Captain Mitchell waited patiently for a response. His crew continued their preparations for a rescue operation, running diagnostics on emergency equipment and preparing medical supplies. No response yet, sir, Emma reported. They're probably scared, commented Hayes. Finding a dead ship is never good news. They might think we're pirates or worse. Mitchell nodded. Keep trying. Use the standard peace codes. Let them know we're here to help. Finally, after what seemed like hours but was probably only minutes, Commander Teosis made his decision. His crew was dying slowly as their life support failed. Whatever the humans intended, staying silent would only guarantee their death. He activated the communication system with trembling fingers. This is Commander HFY of the Zilani research vessel Gentle Current. We have suffered critical engine failure and our life support systems are failing. We require assistance. The response came immediately, and the tone was purely professional. Understood, Commander HFY. We're moving to assist. My engineering teams are preparing now. Can you provide details about your crew size and any injuries? HFY looked around his bridge at his crew's amazed faces. The galaxy's most dangerous species was asking about their injuries. The monsters from the stories were offering medical help. Perhaps he thought the stories had been wrong. The massive human ship moved closer to the disabled Zilani vessel with surprising grace. Despite its enormous size, the Retribution's Edge positioned itself with the precision of a skilled surgeon. Commander Teosis watched through the main viewer as the giant dreadnought slowly turned to face them, its hull blocking out the stars. They're launching smaller vessels, reported Officer Kef, his voice tight with fear. Multiple craft approaching our position. Through the darkness of space, several human shuttles moved toward the Gentle Current. Each one was larger than the Zilani ship's escape pods, and their hulls gleamed with advanced armor plating. To the terrified crew they looked like metal predators closing in for the kill. Sir, Lyra whispered, what if this is how they do it? What if they board us first, then? She couldn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood. The stories about humans always mentioned their love of close combat. Perhaps they preferred to kill their enemies face to face rather than simply destroying them from a distance. Inside the lead shuttle, Chief Engineer Tom Bradley checked his equipment one final time. He was a stocky man with calloused hands and kind eyes, veteran of dozens of rescue operations. Behind him, his engineering team prepared their tools and emergency supplies. Remember, people, Bradley said to his crew, these aliens are scared and probably hurt. Move slowly, speak softly, and keep your helmets on until we know their atmosphere is safe for them. The shuttle docked with the Zilani ship's main airlock with a gentle bump. Through the hull, they could hear the mechanical sounds of the docking clamps engaging. The Zilani crew held their breath, waiting for whatever came next. Bradley activated the communication system. Zilani vessel, this is Chief Bradley. We're ready to come aboard and help with your repairs. Is your airlock compatible with standard docking systems? On the Zilani bridge, Commander HFY stared at the communication panel. The human's voice was calm and professional. There were no threats, no demands for surrender. Just a simple question about technical compatibility. Our systems appear to be compatible, HFY replied slowly. But please understand, we are a research vessel. We carry no weapons, no valuable cargo. We are simply scientists. There was a brief pause before Bradley responded, and when he did, there was genuine confusion in his voice. Sir, we're not here for cargo. We're here to fix your ship. Your distress signal said you needed help. The airlock cycled open, and the first human stepped aboard the Zilani vessel. The Zilani crew gasped in shock. They had expected a monster, some savage beast with claws and fangs. Instead, they saw a figure in an advanced environmental suit, moving carefully and deliberately. Bradley was nearly twice the height of the average Zilani, and his bulky suit made him seem even larger. But his movements were gentle, almost careful, as if he was afraid of breaking something. "Commander Teosis?" Bradley asked, his voice coming through the ship's communication system. "I'm Chief Bradley. We're here to help." Teosis stepped forward slowly, his hands visible and empty. "I am Commander Teosis. Chief Bradley, I must ask, what do you want from us?" The question seemed to confuse the human. Bradley tilted his helmeted head slightly. "Want from you? Sir, you sent a distress call. Your ship is dead in space and your life support is failing. We want to fix that. But we have nothing to offer you in return." Bradley was quiet for a long moment, as if processing something difficult to understand. "Commander, you don't need to offer us anything. You asked for help. We're giving it." Behind Bradley, more humans entered the ship carrying equipment and supplies. Each one moved with the same careful precision, as if they were visiting a hospital rather than conquering an enemy vessel. Kef watched in amazement as one of the humans, a woman with lieutenant's insignia, approached his damaged engineering console. She didn't push him aside or demand access. Instead, she waited politely until he stepped back, then began examining the destroyed circuits. "This is impressive technology," she commented, studying the alien power systems. "Your energy efficiency is remarkable. Mind if I take a look at the damaged coupling?" Kef nodded mutely, still unable to believe what he was seeing. The stories said humans destroyed technology they didn't understand. But this human was showing genuine respect for Zilani engineering. As the repair work continued, Commander Teosis found himself in conversation with Chief Bradley. The human had removed his helmet, revealing a weathered face with intelligent eyes and graying hair. "Your ship design is very elegant," Bradley said, examining the bridge layout. "Everything is positioned for efficiency and comfort. Your people must be natural explorers." "We are a peaceful species," Teosis replied carefully. "We study the stars, map new systems, search for knowledge." Bradley nodded approvingly. "That's good work. The galaxy needs more explorers and fewer warriors." The comment struck Teosis as strange. "But your people are warriors. The stories say humans are the greatest fighters in the galaxy." Bradley's expression grew thoughtful. "We can fight when we have to, that's true. But fighting isn't what we want to do. We'd rather build things, explore new places, help people who need help." As if to prove his point, one of Bradley's engineers called out from across the bridge. "Chief, I think I can get their main power back online. The damage isn't as bad as it looked." "Good work, Martinez," Bradley replied. Then he turned back to Tejas. "See? We're better at fixing things than breaking them." Over the next few hours, the Zilani crew watched in growing amazement as the humans worked to repair their ship. The aliens they had been taught to fear as savage monsters were patient, skilled, and genuinely helpful. When Lieutenant Cooper successfully restored main power to the gentle current, the entire Zilani crew cheered. The human woman smiled broadly, clearly pleased by their joy. "There you go," she said to Kef. "Your ship should be good as new." As the human repair teams prepared to leave, Commander Teosis approached Chief Bradley. "I don't understand. Why did you help us? What do humans gain from this?" Bradley paused at the airlock, considering the question. "Commander, sometimes helping people is its own reward. Your crew needed help and we were able to give it. That's enough." As the human shuttles departed, Teosis looked around at his restored bridge. The lights were bright, the air was warm, and his crew was alive. All because the galaxy's most feared species had chosen to show mercy to complete strangers. Perhaps the real monsters were the ones who had spread the stories about human cruelty. The repairs were nearly complete when Officer Kef noticed something troubling on his long-range sensors. At first he thought it was a system error. The readings showed far too many ships approaching their position. He ran the scan again, hoping the numbers would change. They didn't. "Commander," Kef called out, his voice tight with fear. "Long-range sensors are detecting multiple contacts approaching. 47 ships, sir." Commander Teosis felt his blood freeze. 47? That's impossible. No pirate group is that large. Chief Bradley, who had been overseeing the final power coupling repairs, looked up from his work. "Did you say 47 ships?" "Yes," Teosis replied, his voice barely a whisper. Chief Bradley, you must take your people and leave immediately. What approaches us is not pirates or scavengers. It's the hegemony. The word sent a chill through every Zilani on the bridge. The hegemony was the dominant military power in this region of space. They were conquerors who took whatever they wanted and destroyed anyone who stood in their way. Bradley activated his communication device. Captain Mitchell, we have a situation here. The Zilani are detecting a large fleet approaching. 47 vessels. On the bridge of the Retribution's edge, Captain Mitchell studied the tactical display that had just updated. The approaching fleet showed as red contacts, their formation and speed indicating military vessels on an attack course. Identification. Mitchell asked. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper worked at her sensor station. Computer identifies them as hegemony war vessels, sir. Multiple cruisers, destroyers, and what appears to be 3 battleships. Lieutenant Commander Hayes whistled softly. That's a full battle fleet, sir. Intelligence reports indicate they're one of the most powerful military forces in this sector. Mitchell nodded slowly, understanding the situation. Chief Bradley, what's so important about this research ship that the hegemony would send a full fleet? The question was answered by Commander HFY himself. Captain Mitchell, our research involves dimensional folding technology. We have discovered methods to compress spacetime that could revolutionize travel between stars. The hegemony has been hunting us for months, trying to steal our research. Bradley relayed the information to his captain. On the human bridge, the implications were immediately clear. Technology that could fold space would give whoever controlled it enormous advantages in warfare and trade. How long until they arrive? Mitchell asked. 6 hours at their current speed, reported Cooper. Mitchell looked around his bridge at his officers. The Retribution's Edge was a powerful ship, but it was just one vessel against nearly 50 enemy warships. Any sane military commander would retreat immediately. Chief Bradley, Mitchell said into his communicator, how long do you need to complete repairs on the Zilani ship? At least 12 hours, sir. Their dimensional drive systems are incredibly complex. We can't rush this. On the Zilani vessel, Commander HFY listened to the conversation with growing despair. Captain Mitchell, please understand what you face. The hegemony has never been defeated in battle. Their fleet commanders are ruthless. They will demand you surrender the research data, and when you refuse, they will destroy both our ships. There was a long pause before Mitchell replied. When he did, his voice was calm and steady. Commander HFY, my people have a saying. When you give your word, you keep it. We promised to help you, and that's what we're going to do. Bradley looked at the Zilani commander with respect. Sir, we don't abandon people who need help. That's just not how humans work. HFY stared at the human in amazement. But you'll all die. Your ship cannot face an entire hegemony battle fleet alone. Maybe, Bradley admitted. But maybe not. You'd be surprised what humans can do when we have to protect someone. Back on the Retribution's edge, Captain Mitchell was addressing his senior staff. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a situation. We have 6 hours before a superior enemy force arrives. Our mission is to protect that research vessel and its crew. Hayes pulled up tactical projections on the main screen. Sir, the odds are approximately 50 to 1 against us. Even with our superior technology, those numbers are overwhelming. Recommendations? Mitchell asked. We could retreat with the Zilani crew, suggested Cooper. Save the people, lose the ship and research. The research could change the balance of power in this region, added Hayes. If the hegemony gets it, they'll be able to strike anywhere without warning. Mitchell studied the tactical display, weighing his options. The smart play was retreat. Save what they could and accept the losses. But something about that option didn't sit right with him. Communications, open a channel to the Zilani vessel. Channel open, sir. Commander HFY, this is Captain Mitchell. I want you to know that my ship will remain here to defend you until your repairs are complete. The Zilani commander's voice was filled with emotion when he replied. Captain, you cannot sacrifice your ship and crew for us. We are strangers to you. You're not strangers anymore, Mitchell replied simply. You're people who need help and we're people who can give it. On the human bridge, the crew prepared for battle with grim determination. They checked weapon systems, reinforced shields, and plotted defensive positions. None of them questioned their captain's decision. They had given their word to protect the Zilani research vessel, and they would keep that promise. Lieutenant Commander Hayes approached his captain privately. Sir, the crew is ready. But I have to ask, do you really think we can win this? Mitchell looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, a massive enemy fleet was approaching. Robert, sometimes winning isn't about surviving. Sometimes it's about doing what's right regardless of the cost. As the hours passed, the approaching hegemony fleet grew larger on their sensors. Soon, they would face the most powerful military force in this region of space. But the humans showed no signs of fear or doubt. They had made a promise to protect the Zilani research vessel, and they intended to keep it. The hegemony battle fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects. 47 warships arranged themselves in perfect attack formation, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon ports and armor plating. At the center of the formation, the massive flagship Dark Conquest broadcast its demands across all frequencies. Human vessel, you are ordered to withdraw immediately. The research ship and its data belong to the hegemony by right of conquest. You have 10 minutes to comply or be destroyed. On the bridge of the Retribution's edge, Captain Mitchell stood calmly studying the tactical display. The enemy fleet was impressive, their formations textbook perfect. But there was something about their positioning that suggested they had never faced a truly desperate opponent. "Response, sir?" asked Communications Officer Emma Walsh. Mitchell's reply was simple and direct. "Negative." The single word sent shockwaves through the hegemony fleet. Their commanders had expected immediate surrender or perhaps desperate pleas for mercy. They had not expected defiance. Admiral Krex, commander of the hegemony fleet, stared at his communication console in disbelief. Did they just refuse a direct order from the hegemony? "Yes, sir," replied his communications officer. Their response was simply negative. Krex had conquered dozens of worlds and faced hundreds of enemy ships. Never had anyone simply said no to his demands. "All ships, prepare to engage. Target the human vessel first. Make an example of them." The battle began when the first hegemony cruiser fired its main batteries at the Retribution's edge. The massive human ship absorbed the hits on its forward shields, barely slowing its advance toward the enemy formation. What happened next defied every rule of space combat that the hegemony knew. Instead of maintaining safe distance and exchanging fire like civilized warships, the human vessel accelerated directly into the enemy formation at full speed. "They're charging straight at us," shouted a hegemony sensor operator. "Impact in 30 seconds. Admiral Krex watched in horror as the human dreadnought smashed through his defensive line like a battering ram. The Retribution's edge collided directly with two cruisers, its massive hull crushing their lighter frames. Nuclear explosions blossomed around the human ship as it passed, but it emerged from each blast still fighting. On the Zilani research vessel, Officer Kef watched the battle with wide eyes. "They're ramming enemy ships directly. That should kill them instantly." Commander Teosis could barely speak. "Their ship is built like a fortress. And their crew, how are they surviving those impacts?" The answer lay in human engineering and human endurance. The Retribution's edge had been designed to fight in the worst possible conditions. Its crew was trained to operate under acceleration and impacts that would kill most other species instantly. Lieutenant Commander Hayes coordinated the attack from his tactical station, his body pressed against his restraints by tremendous forces. "Target the flagship. All weapons, maximum power." The human ship's main guns opened fire at point-blank range. Energy beams and missile salvos struck the hegemony flagship's shields with devastating effect. But instead of retreating to safe distance after the attack, the Retribution's edge moved even closer. "Prepare boarding parties," Captain Mitchell ordered calmly, as if he was requesting tea rather than launching the most dangerous military operation possible. The hegemony bridge crew watched in terror as human assault shuttles launched from the massive dreadnought. These weren't evacuation craft or supply vessels. They were armored attack ships filled with human soldiers. "Sir, they're launching boarding craft," reported a terrified hegemony officer. "They mean to board us in the middle of a space battle." Admiral Krex had heard stories about human boarding tactics. Species across the galaxy whispered about human soldiers who could fight in vacuum, who could survive radiation that would kill normal beings, who never retreated and never surrendered. "All ships, focus fire on the human vessel. Stop those boarding craft at all costs." But the human shuttles moved through the weapon fire like they were flying through a light rain. Their pilots performed maneuvers that should have been impossible, dodging between laser blasts and missile explosions with supernatural skill. The first boarding craft reached the hegemony flagship and cut through its hull with industrial cutting beams. Within minutes, human soldiers were fighting their way through the ship's corridors, moving with a precision and ferocity that the hegemony had never encountered. On the Retribution's edge, Captain Mitchell monitored multiple battles simultaneously. His ship was engaging 3 enemy vessels at close range while his boarding parties fought inside 2 others. Any other species would have been overwhelmed by the complexity. Boarding Party Alpha has secured the flagship's engine room, reported Hayes. Boarding Party Beta is advancing on their bridge. What about casualties? Mitchell asked. Surprisingly light, sir. The enemy isn't putting up much resistance once our people get aboard. The truth was that hegemony soldiers had never faced human infantry in close combat. Stories about human berserkers, about soldiers who fought on despite wounds that would stop anyone else, had spread terror through their ranks. But even in the fury of battle, the humans maintained their discipline. When enemy soldiers surrendered, they were treated with respect. When enemy ships lost life support, human rescue vessels moved to assist. The humans fought like demons, but they fought with honor. The turning point came when Captain Mitchell ordered his ship to ram the hegemony flagship directly through its command section. The Retribution's edge struck the enemy vessel at full speed, its reinforced bow tearing through armor and hull like paper. The massive human ship emerged from the collision battered but functional, while the hegemony flagship broke apart in silent explosions. Admiral Krex's final transmission was a warning to his remaining ships. Retreat! Retreat! These are not normal beings. The surviving hegemony vessels fled at maximum speed, broadcasting warnings about the Deathworld demons to anyone who would listen. In the aftermath, as human engineering teams returned to complete repairs on the Gentle Current, Commander TSS found himself making history. He was offering the first formal diplomatic treaty between his people and the species that had just saved them. Captain Mitchell, he said, my government would be honored to establish relations with humanity. Perhaps the galaxy has been wrong about your people. Mitchell smiled, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners. We'd be honored too, Commander. Seems like the galaxy could use more friends and fewer enemies. Months later, Officer Kef served as ambassador to Earth, still amazed by that day when they accidentally called the galaxy's most dangerous protectors for help.